We were in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for the annual Royal Pahang Billfish tournament. We had already had some really hot sailfish action, and my team, with the exception of me, had landed some nice sails.
Beautiful fish.
Fish of a lifetime.
With a couple of days before the tournament, we were heading out to check out some of the other fishing opportunities in the area. We're just heading out on Pahang Dam, which is near Rompin. It's a piece of fresh water, obviously flooded. I don't know why they've dammed it, but it carries a stock of what the Malaysians call taman, which is more commonly known as snakehead. So we're heading out for a bit of snakehead fishing. I don't know what to expect. There's some lovely sunken timbers over there. Apparently these fish are pretty aggressive ambush predators, so let's go and see if we can get ourselves a taman. We were using an interesting frog-type lure that you cast and retrieve over the weeds when fishing for snakehead. The idea is to provoke an attack from the snakehead as it protects its babies. Casting and retrieving for snakehead was intense. We did get quite a few strikes, but quickly lost the fish in the weeds.
It's not a snakehead.
No. After a couple of dry runs with some smaller fish that live in the lake, Kirk managed to stay connected to our target species.
Try and make your way over there, hopefully we can keep him on. Here he comes, should we get the net?
Yep. Rồi nha.
In he goes.
I tell you what, it's quite exciting just stalking these fish around this beautiful dam.
So there he is, my first snakehead, or as they call it here, toman. You can see by his head he looks like a snake. I guess that's where he gets his name from. Really hard head, and he's got some teeth as well. Came out, I cast into a little school of just tiny little bait fish flittering on the top, almost like the water was shimmering. This guy came up, he had a crack, missed it, came up and had another go, and then took it down into the weed. Heaps of weed there, but good looking fish. First one for me.
Just as we started to get into full swing of the fishing, the heavens opened up in an almighty thunderstorm, so we had to run for cover. Well, it's an absolutely cracking thunder and lightning storm going on, and you come to expect that when you go fishing, but the one thing when you're in places like, wow, big flash of lightning there, you don't go out in the open with carbon fibre fishing rods and lightning. They're conductors, so it's dangerous. So we've come into this wonderful shed that someone's built. It's actually a floating shed suspended on 44-gallon drums. So we're just going to have a little rest during the middle of the day. Once the rain rolls out and the thunder and lightning's gone, we're back into it. Unfortunately, the weather did not improve, so we had to wait for the next day to head out fishing. This time we were targeting something slightly smaller. So this is what we're going fishing for. Big river prawns. Look at the nippers on that, and the big horn. And they pull the food into there. Prawn fishing is very popular in Malaysia. People rent these houses to spend the night fishing for these tasty little crustaceans. Our local guide was somewhat of a prawn fishing guru. The small boats were a little precarious, but we were soon into the prawns. So here we have a river prawn, not a monster. Oh, they bite though. He wants to get me. With enough for dinner, it was off to get ready for the start of the tournament the next day. There were anglers from all around the globe taking part in the Royal Pahang Billfish tournament. This is a really major event for Kuala Lumpur, with lots of media coverage and dignitaries and politicians taking part. The action started off furiously with good sailfish coming to the boat early on. We also caught a few non-target species which made the fishing interesting.
Spotted trevally?
Yeah, we've had a double hookup of cobia. Sean hooked up first, bored it in. We thought it was a sail to start with. Bored it into the boat, and we saw two others following it. So I quickly wound in my bait, which we were trolling, dropped it next to Sean's. One came up out of nowhere, poof, grabbed it, and we're both on.
The cobia make fine eating, and we took ours to the local restaurants where they would happily cook them up in a variety of tasty and interesting ways. The food in Malaysia is a mix of Malay, Indian and Chinese cuisines, and very cheap. Around midday, the sailfish started to bite, and the sea conditions started to flatten out.
The hooking of this fish was a real case of matching the hatch. We drifted through with some sabikis out and we're catching these little things that look like, I guess, our slimy mackerel. And they're only about this long. Everyone else here is using balloons, but I thought I'd just drift one of these slimy mackerels out without a balloon so it could just do its own thing. We're drifting quite fast and I'm the only one, we're the only boat that's hooked up that we've seen for quite a while, so just goes to show. Match the hatch, do what you think is going to work, and it does. And there he is, beautiful. What a beautiful fish, look at those colours.
Later in the afternoon, I finally got my shot and hooked a rampaging sailfish.
Hey, good sail.
It got really oily calm. Whoa! The birds were moving around, so we decided just to very, very slowly troll us live bait to get them close to the birds, because the birds were working. Every bird you went to had a sailfish underneath it, and that's paid off with a nice strike. Don't think he's too tired yet. Yep. That's good. That's where I like him. Here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, up on top. Good looking sail. Well, that sadly brings us to the end of our Malaysian adventure. It's been raging at romping. The sailfish fishing is just unbelievable. If you get a chance, get over here and experience this for yourself. Let's get this fella back in the water. Next up, fossicking for fossils and unlocking the keyhole lakes.
Inland America is not somewhere you think of when talking spearfishing, but they have some stunning lakes that can offer up all sorts of fish. There are also some other great options associated with fish. We find a really cool spot. Feels like we've driven halfway across America, which we have, to the Fossil Safari Park. We're here for a different sort of fishing. We're fishing for fossils. So it's a quarry, by the looks of things. You split these bits of stone open and hopefully there's going to be fossils in them. Let's find out. The Kiwi Spearo team were keen to get amongst it.
There's certain layers that if you want to work for a big fish, you're going to work through a lot of rock on the upper layer.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean there isn't big fish on the bottom. It's just there's a lot more bigger fish on the top.
Right.
Although I found, myself personally, I found a 36-inch ferrule on the bottom. So it's just a matter of splitting a rock.
So we've got our hammer, and this is our splitting tool, I presume. Tapping that splits the slabs. Now we are told these fish fossils could be up to 50 million years old. Now I've sort of found one that somebody else has uncovered here and I'm trying to chip it away. It's quite a difficult one because it's still stuck to this big slab. So, let's see if I can gently work my way around it and get it off. The rock is quite soft and wet, making it easy to work with. Everyone's finding them. It's better than we thought, but hard to get a complete fish.
About a 6-incher.
That's great. The biggest fish of the trip.
Fish of the day, right?
Next stop, Yellowstone Park to meet some of the locals. Grizzly bears have a fearsome reputation, not keen to find out if these ones are friendly. Mount Rushmore is amazing, but it's spearfishing we're here for. We're up here in the mid-northwest of America, Wyoming. We're at what's called the Keyhole Lakes for the American Freshwater National Spearfishing Championships. There's a team of 7 of us from New Zealand, and we're coming here to see if we can give the Americans a run for their money spearing fish in fresh water, something we don't do a lot of at home, obviously, other than places like Lake Taupo where we do the catfish cull. but this water's looking really cold. And it's quite dirty, obviously, so we're using the little wee small guns, way smaller than we tend to use at home, or especially in the upper North Island. So it's going to be quite an adventure, something we've never ever done before. Diving, Wyoming. There's lots of sidearms of the lake that need investigating. Pike are not included in the comp. They have to be 30 inches or 75 centimetres long to be taken. They use their camouflage to hide in things like fallen trees. These crappies are in the comp. We can shoot 15. Thrown on a barbecue hole, they're really nice. This small walleye is a top target species for the comp. Some up to 3 kgs were speared over the course of the week. They have big teeth and have really nice white flesh. It's all new to us, meaning lots to learn. Hunting in weed and mud can be quite daunting. We dive with Mike Maguire and his son Kelston. They help us with fish ID and where to find them. We do use similar principles to what you'd use in the sea. No freshwater event could go without bass, America's #1 hunted freshwater fish. They're very easy to hunt.
All the fish that I shot today were relatively easy. Again, it's just quick shooting. You can't muck around because they'll take off on you, and you can only see the vis was probably up to, I don't know, 2 or 3 metres in most of the places today. But it was good diving, no swells, so I felt really good. The water's not that cold. So yeah, lake diving introduction was very good today.
These edges are murky because carp were feeding here. They stir it up, causing erosion of the lake edges. And we're driving along looking for fish. We're just scooting along the edges looking in the water. We've got polarized sunglasses on, I've got my tonics on, and there's just thousands and thousands of carp all along these waterways, along these edges. Some are quite easy in clear, shallow water. Others go deeper into the real murky spots, making it quite hard. No sharks meant it's safe to carry fish on your weight belt like this. If you keep your movements to a minimum, they're very easy. Carp are pests. One day of the comp we're allowed to shoot up to 50. I managed the most for the team, getting 43. I just shot that one here, right up in that shallow stuff behind me, as well as him. I have all these big beauties. There's literally hundreds of them in the shallows there. Weigh-in time. Carp were abundant. Only one big catfish was shot. That catfish, will you eat it?
Absolutely, very good eating fish. They have a strip of yellow meat along the spine on either side that you need to trim off, but the fillet from there down is very tasty.
Really nice.
Very good eating.
Interesting. So the catfish is beautiful to eat. Now I've just found Kyle here with what looks like the biggest fish of the competition, and this is going to be a hard one to beat. So this is, what's this, Kyle? A drum?
Drum.
And how deep did you get that?
About 13 feet.
About 13 feet deep, so that's about 5 metres, 6 metres. And how heavy do you reckon it is?
Close to 20 pounds, I think.
20
Maybe
pound
17.
drum. So this is huge. Can you hold it up? Can you hold its tail up? Hold it up like that for the camera. Look at that. That is a beast of a fish. Now this is fresh water, remember? So this is a big fish to come out of fresh water. On day one, the Kiwi team won. Day two was not so good, but we did come second in the pairs event overall. Carp cull results.
Coming up, Kirk hits the jackpot with some mid-water mooches. Oh.
In this adventure, I'm heading 50 kilometres offshore to an area that I've only ever fished for kingfish before. Some small pins come up out of 100 metres to around 70, which holds the kingfish. But I'm going to try some different techniques in the area to see what else it holds. Immediately on arrival, there was some ominous looking signs showing well off the bottom, which could be anything. Getting some hits. I'm only down about 20 or 30 metres and I'm just starting to get hit on the soft bait. While the other boats in the area continued to jig for kingfish, I persevered with my soft bait. Something's hitting it. Here we go. Yep. Got one on. Not sure what it is yet. Oh. It's not bad, whatever it is. You can see a patch of sign at about 30 metres. Could be some kingfish or barracuda or anything. Could even be snapper. Snapper will come up off the bottom if they're feeding on something. Hopefully we'll get to find out. It's the beauty of fishing out in these locations, especially when you change it up a bit. Could get anything. The reason I used a soft bait was because I wanted it to drift down slowly. Oh, and that is a nice fish. And how's that for a beautiful fish? Out of the deep. What a beauty. Look at that, for a beautiful snapper. And that just comes from prospecting ground. I've never fished for snapper before on just drifting a soft bait down. I'm still in 70 metres of water and I've hooked this guy up in 30. Unbelievable. And he's away, excellent. When you're dropping down a soft bait in deep water like this, you've really got to keep an eye on it. If it stops, just kind of put your finger on the line and just feel why it stopped. Are you getting a bite? Is it just the way it is? Sometimes the line will just kind of catch up, but often if it stops, it's because you're getting a bite. So get a good feel on it, give it a little lift, and you never know what you'll catch. There was still some good signs showing at 30 metres, so I wasn't just hopeful, but expectant of another nice fish really soon. Here we go. Oh, yep. Didn't quite have my bail arm hooked over, but he's on. Amazing how fishing in areas like this, 100 metres of water or 70 here, I'm up on top of the rise, the fish are up at 30. How cool is that? Not even fish in the bottom. I was using 4 kilo Daiwa J braid and this was perfect for the job at hand. Must just be stacks of them down there. Sounder is full. You'd think it was kingfish or bait, and maybe it is, part of it is bait that the sounder's showing, and that's what those snapper are into. Might even be worth dropping a livey down into it. Here he comes, another nice respectable snapper. There we go. Beautiful fish. Beautiful eating size fish, around the 2 kilo mark. Nicely hooked, and he's not too bloated, this one, so we'll let him go back. Here we go. Yep. Oh, nice one. That's a nice one. Man, they fight really well when hooked in mid-water. That's a nice fish. Coming out to the middle of nowhere where no one does this type of fishing. There's a couple of boats around me, but they're fishing for kingfish. They've got liveys out, they're jigging. I'm sitting here all on my own, catching snapper hopefully. Oh man, on this light gear and in deep water, you never know what you're going to hook up to, but as well, what an awesome fight. The whole school's gone down to about 50 metres now. I think following this fish as it went to the bottom.
After a long fight on the 4-kilo braid, the fish finally surfaced.
It's a monster snapper, look at that. Not a 20-pounder, but an absolute beautiful fish. Oh yeah, and he is in the net. That is a monster. Woo! Look at that. That's about a 7-kilo or 15-pound snapper. Just caught on the soft bait, not dropping it to the bottom, but using that sign, using what I see on the sounder. And man, what a fish.